Yeah. Okay. Well, welcome, everybody joining us here in the room and on Zoom. Hey. Oh, heavens, yes. Thank you. Welcome, everybody, council members in the room here with others attending, and we welcome those who are joining us by Zoom. We have just one council member to excuse, and that would be Jeff Wardell. We're okay? Okay. We'd like to have the Pledge of Allegiance, and Tony's gonna lead us in that, and Dave will give us a prayer.
If you'd all stand, you after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Our Father in heaven, we gather before thee as we begin the council meeting of Morgan City. Thankful for this opportunity we have to come together. We're thankful for the beautiful valley that we reside in, and we ask that it may continue to be blessed. We're thankful for the city that we participate in and for the wonderful surroundings that we enjoy. We pray now at this time that blessing will be upon us, that we may make proper decisions in the best interests of the city. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Is there a motion and a second to approve the meeting's agenda?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, Tony gave us a motion to approve these minutes, and Eric,
Approve the
agenda, sorry.
Not quite approved.
Not through the minutes yet. The meeting's agenda. And thank you. And Eric seconded that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Denise, that was unanimous. Okay, has everyone reviewed the minutes and the warrants? And if so, is there a motion and a second to approve the minutes and warrants for the city council meeting, work meeting minutes, February 28, 23, and the city council meeting minutes of February 28, 23, and the warrants from 2/24/23 to 3/10/23.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion by Dave and a second by Tony to approve the city council meeting, work meeting minutes of February 28, 23, the city council meeting minutes, February 28, 23, and the warrants from 2/24/23 to 3/10/23. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Denise, that was unanimous. Okay, we have the opportunity to have a citizen comment tonight. And everybody should have the card of the comment card.
They were here.
Oh,
Oh, there you
there
go.
they are.
Good evening. Nice to meet you all.
Welcome. Appreciate you participating. We would like to have you lead us in a little discussion on what your plans are.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Diego. This is my wife, Kim. We're residents down in Spanish Fork. We've been looking at a few properties up in Morgan, both the county and the city. Specifically, what we wanted to bring up was a home in the city that we are interested in. As we were doing research prior to submitting an offer, we looked at the land usage, permitted and conditional uses. And what we found was that home occupations allow for occupations within the residence itself, but don't allow for conducting business outside of the residence, except for a few kind of minor cases like teaching in private swim lessons and things like that. My wife is a licensed mental health therapist, and she specializes in equine assisted psychotherapy. One of the big reasons that we are so interested in Morgan is we both grew up in rural towns and have a lot of love for sort of rural principles. We have a lot of love for horses, and our hope was to be able to use the home, the land that the home is on, to also kind of have these sort of therapy sessions. I'll pause there. I don't know if there's any questions, and then we can get into more details.
Does anybody have any questions?
Where's this located? What property is this located? Where?
Yeah, I can pull it up. It is, I believe,
Yeah, I see that.
it's 681 West Island Road that we're interested in. It's on an acre. Kind of primarily what we would think of using it is typically the session involves a single person, whether that's, Kim specializes in children and teens, but that could really be anyone. The session typically happens in like a round pen or like an indoor arena. And so the idea would be that a single individual and Kim, or maybe a group. So imagine like a family is doing a family session, or a group of teens is doing a group session in a round pen. Or if I don't remember what the accessory building codes are, but if we could build a little covered arena or round pen, we would do the session in there with a horse or two. That's kind of what it would look like. I think we recognize that it's not necessarily a decision that you can make right now. I think ultimately what we're looking for is if this is something that would even be considered as we look for kind of where to establish our family. This is kind of a primary case for us. We'd like to be able to run our business out of our home. It obviously offers a lot of benefits to us as far as flexibility goes. We both work, and so being able to have Kim's business run at the home gives us a lot of flexibility and increases the way that we can kind of serve the community in that way. So
Yeah. Our hope is just to bring more mental health services to rural community too, because there's a lot of barriers in treatment, especially of teenagers, where equine kind of breaks down some of those barriers where it's hard to engage in like just talking to a therapist. It's really intimidating, but equine therapy allows, like, for those kids who are too scared to go to therapy, kind of eases that tension.
I don't. I'd had, go ahead. Well, a couple of questions for our city attorney, Gary here. Would a change in the ordinance require a public hearing?
This would probably require a change in the home occupation section of the code. And so you'd have to go through the planning commission, and they would have to look at language that would change that. And then it would go from the planning commission to you. If you determine to go that direction, take a look at it. Could I just ask a question? What is the property zoned right now? Is it?
I believe it's rural residential.
So you are allowed to have animals in rural residential?
That's correct. Yeah, I think if I remember our conversation with the city planner, it was 3 horses that are allowed there.
This says that, for every 20,000 square feet, you say you have an acre, which would be what, 43,000 square feet. So 20,000 is 1 cow or horse. So an acre looks to me like would be two cows or 2 horses.
Yeah, it's just over an acre. I think it brings us to the 45,000 square feet.
But it wouldn't be 60,000 square feet. I don't imagine would it?
Oh, sorry, for every additional horse or cow after the first, it's only 10,000 square feet.
10,000?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, because you'd have to have, about what, 50,000, 53,000?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember it, as Jake and I worked through it, it ended up being 3.
Oh,
But if that ends up being lower, if it's 2, it's 2. I don't know that we're necessarily disputing the number of horses necessarily.
Gary, back to the process, then does the public have a chance to comment?
Yes.
Would that be via a hearing, a public hearing?
Would there
Okay.
be a public
With the
hearing
planning commission?
with the planning commission?
Okay. And then maybe a question to you, Diego, have you had a chance to talk to neighbors? If there have been any input that way?
I actually only know one person on the street, Mark and Janine Walker. I served my mission with them years and years ago. I think that they're actually on the county side, if I'm correct. So I don't know that they necessarily count. I also know John and Connie Porter, and they said that they knew some of the neighbors and could introduce us if we needed to kind of get to that point. So I think mostly we were just interested in if it's something that this group would even consider, and then we could go, down further steps if that's something that would be considered.
What would your thoughts be on handling maybe increased commercial traffic, i.e. trailers and so forth? Are there facilities to park in that?
Yeah, it's got a pretty long drive with the scenario that the horses are really ours and we have a 3-horse trailer. So it's not likely that we'll have more trailers than are currently on the unit. Really commercially, I imagine that for the most part, it's one person. So one additional car, I don't know that it's a lot of hours that we plan on doing it. It'd probably be somewhere between 10 to 15 hours. So I don't imagine to be that much more traffic than that area is probably used to.
Has the property been used for horses in the past?
It looks like it has, yeah.
Yeah,
It has a 4-stall barn.
Yeah.
They've got 3 horses there now.
Oh, Eric. says they have 3
you're
horses. Okay.
So what,
And they've got a horse trailer park there.
so
A big one.
ideally, you would be
Yeah.
providing the horses.
Yes, yeah, they definitely would be our horses.
Okay.
So it's therapy.
But this would be a commercial enterprise, correct?
It would be, yeah. Yeah, so it wouldn't be necessarily a private use of our horse. It would be commercial for sure. And that's why we looked specifically at the home occupation section. It currently allows for tennis courts to be used for instruction. It allows for swimming pools to be used for instruction. And so in our mind, this was something similar, obviously not that similar, but kind of similar in spirit, where we're using I don't even know if it's a facility, but we're using an element of our yard for not necessarily instruction, because it's not horseback riding lessons, but it's like, it's therapy. So like I said, not super similar, but that's kind of why we went after the home occupation.
Gary, could a exception be made to the ordinance for a single property?
I think, probably not for a single property, but because that would be a use variance, and use variances are not allowed in the state of Utah. But I think what they're asking, I just want to get it clear in my mind, what they're asking for is something that is already permitted in the zone to be used as part of their home occupation. So if it were a pool, for example, you could give swimming lessons because the pool is already allowed in the zone.
Mhm.
And Same thing with tennis courts. And so what they're saying is, I think if I'm clear, is that they would not exceed what is already allowed in the zone. They would own their own horses. Essentially, if we were to change the ordinance, we would probably create an ordinance that would say, as long as it's allowed in the zone, and then we would put whatever conditions on that home occupation that you wish to put. And it's in the code, it's an accessory use. A home occupation is an accessory use to the original use anyway. And so it would just be a matter of coming up with criteria that you wanted them to meet, so they weren't in violation, but they wouldn't be exceeding what is already permitted in the zone. I think, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's correct.
It's in the ordinance, though, that tennis courts and private swimming pools are except outside private swimming pools or tennis courts. It specifically mentions those two activities. So
Yes.
You'd add,
you'd have to
You
add
would
something
add-
to that if you wanted to change the ordinance.
so that would be the answer, is to add it and put restrictions on it to the extent that you'd want to do that. If it was an idea that you wanted to.
I mean, to add it, even, with restrictions, then that opens it up to anybody in the city. Could there be a case where one property it works, say this one, for example, where it works very comfortably and another one it doesn't, but yet it's permitted now?
Yeah, exactly.
Put
If-
restrictions on what makes this comfortable?
Lot size?
Lot size.
Okay,
So, I mean, you could put a lot size restriction. If you have an acre or more in
gotcha.
this, in this particular
this
zone,
Right.
and the horses are yours, you maintain the horses, your horses, so you don't invite others to bring horse trailers and horses in. And you don't have any more than, I think we limit the number of customers to the home anyway, but they're saying one or two, as far as horse. So that's the type of restriction that you would put on
Okay.
this that
Okay.
would, may help with what you're thinking about,
Mhm,
make
yeah,
it more
yeah.
comfortable. If you decided to go that way, so.
If I may, I've researched a lot of different county and city codes. And one of the things that I found in some counties specifically for this is they'll put limitations on it around, they'll specifically mention therapy involving equine. And then there's kind of a criteria that's met, which is there has to be a license. So even if there was a concern about being too broad, I know that some counties that I've talked to out in Oregon, they wanted to be very specific because they didn't want to just open it up to everybody to
With a
do
horse.
anything with a horse. They wanted to be very, very specific. And so I've seen it get as specific as, therapy involving horses is allowed, provided that the person the person, one, is living in the home, and two, has a license to practice. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but
Thank you.
That does make sense to me, that you want to have some kind of licensed therapist, otherwise I could do that.
Well, it says here in ordinance, horses for private use only, horses kept and maintained as an accessory use to a dwelling for the pleasure and use of the occupants thereof, and not to be used for commercial purposes. Somewhere we must have had an issue to spell that out with somebody roping lessons, whatever other activities you can do with a horse, throwing dust at the neighbor's backyard. I don't know. But it spelled it out at some point. We've discussed this about a horse in previous years, Tony.
and I would say that's kind of the general consensus I've heard from many counties that I've talked to, is they didn't want to just open it up for anybody to go teach riding lessons and bother the neighbors with, horses running around and kicking up a bunch of dust. So that is something that I've heard a lot. And that's just why I bring up the very specific language around, therapy involving a horse with the provision of a license.
Yeah, one other thing to note with equine therapy, the model that is most research-based that I use is just a ground-based model. So no one's even riding the horse. It's just interacting with the horse. So it does kind of give you a little more detail too.
So what sort of license would that be? Is there some professional license to do this type of work, or
Well, as a therapist, like I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and then I'm also certified in this model called equine assisted growth and learning.
Oh,
But I do believe there are multiple licenses in the state that allow you to work as a
Right.
mental health therapist.
Yeah.
okay, thank you. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. Psychologists, social workers, mental health counselors. There's a few different names for it, but they can all be a therapist.
With a specialty toward equine horses, right? Is that a
Oh.
specialized?
Yeah, that's a specialty.
And those usually come with certificates and not necessarily a license.
Right.
Okay.
Okay,
Maybe just one last question to our city manager. Any concerns there, Ty?
So I just really appreciate the applicant doing the homework instead of, hey, I just bought this property and
Yeah.
and applying. So kudos to you. Not a lot of people, you might do a title search or research, but you're very well informed. And I think that we appreciate that just as staff. I explained at the last meeting, just a reminder to council that it's just a question that we're not able to answer. And also as council that you're not able to say, that we permit this without an application on file. And so they're aware of that process as well. We're just really saying, is this something you'd like to entertain? And this discussion back and forth maybe gives you indicators of what adjustments you would like the planning commission to consider if you're interested in it. As far as staff, I think, we don't get really into it either applies or it doesn't. We don't get very far into, do we want this or not? That's kind of your purview as council. I think, now that I made that statement, I think one of the only, maybe caution is in therapy, if individual therapy versus group therapy, if that makes sense, right? So it's the same thing as like, private tennis lessons versus team tennis, because that's where impact to neighbors. The neighborhood model was designed with X amount of parking, X amount of access, that sort of thing. And so if you are interested in entertaining it, that's just one element that I would consider is if you do put limits on it to make sure it's individual or private, just lessens the likelihood that something spins out of scope. So that's pretty much my input.
Okay, thank
so
you.
let me just get this clear. So Diego and Kimberly would establish that before they bring it to the planning commission.
I think they're just asking, would you consider it, right? So if they're interested in this property and we're not even gonna look at our code and we've reviewed this, and by the way, we just updated this last month, so this is a hard no, right? That gives you one response. And if it's like, hey, that sounds like it fits, I'd be open to it. Let's explore it. That's pretty much all we can really decide right now. And then even if we go through the process for a change, I think they need to know the time frame on that process. And then we also, as a council, can't guarantee or pre-decide that application. We just set the code, and then you can't pre-award a use without a actual application on file. So there's always a chance that something else is considered during that process where it's like, well, that's not actually a license in Utah, or when that application comes in, it'll get reviewed for what it is. Which there's things in there that we can't really contemplate. I didn't mean to take us down a whole other road, but basically that's just where we're at. Is it's kind of a head nod. You want to look into it, and then we at least know how to work with the applicant to say, hey, it's on the next agenda or it's not. You know, couple weeks notice for public hearing. You know, so we're a couple months process, even if you, and I don't know what that does, but we really can't answer that for them as far as, you know, if they should buy the property or not. We just run our process, you know, the way that it goes. So.
Okay, so I guess thank you for the opportunity to discuss it. And we'll discuss it as a city staff and then move on. And I guess at that point, Gary, we would notify them of what our.
If the
Do you need a head nod from us?
the council can give a head nod and then the staff would go ahead and take a look at what's out there as far as ordinances go and maybe bring back to you or to the planning commission, I guess, is where it would go first. Unless you want it back to you to see what types of things that you might be interested in entertaining, but it is a process. It does take time. If there's a pressing sale on the property, like Ty says, it probably is not going to happen real quick, but if you'd like us to do that, take a look at that, we can.
Yeah, so that's not a decision, right? But you can give the direction to look into it, to propose something. You can start that process, but it's something that staff really wouldn't do on our own without the guidance. So that's really what you can do tonight is either say, yeah, we're interested, or let's not waste our time, or we're comfortable with how our ordinance is spelled out because of a previous, you know, so it is appropriate to have the council give us direction.
Okay. Who's gonna go first? Want me to go?
You're on.
The neighbor across the street, right across the street.
Here's a neighbor.
Here's the neighbor right across the street, directly across from you.
Got it.
I'll go ahead and give my head nod. I think I'd like to at least see us entertain this. I think a while ago, we actually had another thing come in about farm animals on some of the city property. I don't know that we've updated that. We had some, wasn't chickens or something came in a while ago. We had a pretty lengthy conversation about this ordinance anyway. I'd love to see us go back and at least see what we come up with. There's my head nod.
Thank you. Mark said to say hi.
Is he on? Did he tell you about me or something?
He did. Yeah, he did.
I'd be willing to, to move forward, but it's going to be with limitations in my mind. I
Yes.
think we need to respect the neighbors. I'd like to hear what they'd have to say and would hope to go forward. There wouldn't be a lot of objection, but certainly would be interested in knowing what neighbors besides Eric, what their concerns would be. So limitations may be a way to mitigate some of their concerns, and I guess the potential's there that it could limit things enough that it wouldn't do what you wanted it to do. So I think just knowing that going forward, I think it's something that we can take a look at.
Yeah, well, I don't think this ordinance is unless I'm wrong, I don't think it's been looked at for a while, so maybe it wouldn't hurt to take a look at it and things change over time, so I think that it certainly wouldn't hurt to take a look at it. And I guess, Gary, I guess my thought would be, I'm sure that a lot of cities have ordinances similar to this or speak to this, I would assume, correct?
There probably are, and these folks might have some that they want us to take a look at.
Probably more so in counties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of cities that even have horse properties. Did you say you're from South Jordan?
Spanish Fork.
Spanish Fork, yeah.
Spanish Fork. Oh, sorry about
See,
that.
that's why Morgan's so awesome.
Because we're what everybody used to be.
Uh-huh.
I currently do
That's
it.
what I'm saying is I don't know if there'd be a reasonable template out there. I don't know, but maybe it'd be worth.
There
exploring.
apparently are some templates online, so I was just looking them up real quick, and there's some things. Horse-friendly zoning, and there's some guidelines that we bring back if you wanted to just take a look at them.
restrictions on it that what we want in the city. So, yeah, I think we can make this a little user friendly to horses.
I believe that's how the Sandy Mayer ran for office because of a horse issue.
That's right.
It's a good platform.
Well, we'll take this under advisement and discuss it with the city staff.
Thank you. We appreciate it so much.
Appreciate you doing all your work.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item is some presentations, which I'm excited about. Like to turn just a minute or two over to Ty to explain the awards and then we'll award you.
Okay, our first one's our wastewater. So the mayor and I actually went down and watched Kel receive this award at the Rural Waters Association, and he was nominated by the Rural Waters Association. So it wasn't even like one of those self nominated things. You know, they did ask us for some verbiage and stuff like that. But one of the most interesting things is this is a system award, and they mentioned Kel by name. Ours was the only System of the Year award where they recognized the operator by name. And just as a side note, they have also that's where they do the water taste, you know, best water in the state. So we watched that and I was inspired by that. So I came home and had my boy thinks he knows the best bottled water, and so I did 9 different bottled waters with our city water mixed in. And I have it on video. I couldn't figure out how to share it, but so he taste tested 8 different bottled waters, and I said, you don't have to name them by name. He thought he could. And he went through and I said, just pick your favorite out of all 9. And he did. He went through and tasted them all. And then the one he chose was Morgan City Tap Water, was the winner. And then my daughter was home from college and did the exact same thing. I mixed up the order while they were out of the room, covered it with a paper bag. And so two of my 4 kids picked Morgan City Water as their favorite water, even above bottled water. And so Kel does a great job over both departments. I know this award's just for the sewer system of the year.
We did
but
win that one year.
Yeah, we won.
Best tasting water. We weren't like Beaver. We didn't put a big, you know,
Billboard up there.
Well,
yeah, a big billboard out on the interstate, but yeah,
So-
15 years ago, we won it.
anyway, just really appreciate Kel. As you know, we've condensed the departments. He does both water and sewer, and has a lot of respect in the community, and that was a statewide thing. So I thought just a great honor. So thank you so much, Kel, and Mayor you get to do this again.
He's not excited about this.
Oh, yeah, that was the worst part, is to see us show up.
It's not as big a crowd.
I'm curious to even participate in that anymore. I wonder if we participate. Hey, Ty, do we even participate in that water tasting contest anymore?
We didn't, we choose the year, but we didn't take a sample this year.
Thanks, Cal.
Hey, come get a picture up front.
Yeah, stand right up here, Mayor.
You got a few notes, Gail? Speech?
Perfect.
The right one? Okay, everyone hold your breath. The whole system might go down.
It'll be on
Well done.
CNN tomorrow. Right there.
Today's show.
I was gonna say, Kel, you don't need to hang around.
Thanks, Gail.
Thanks, Bill. All right, let's move to court.
Okay, our next one is a IPSA Safety Award for 2022 for our Morgan City Power Department. So that's a entire department type award. Maybe Clark wants to speak more about what goes into that and how that's selected, but Clark's here to receive that on behalf of our
It's from who again?
power department. So the Intermountain Power Superintendents Association.
Okay.
So that's the organization that does the certifying, they're the certifying body for linemen, right? So they have the apprentice program. That's where you go test to become certified as a lineman. And of course, safety is a huge part of that, right? Like you don't become certified, but just really proud of our department being such a small department, to receive recognition for safety, because it's usually the small ones that cut corners, or you don't have enough people, we don't really have equipment for that, but we'll go ahead and try it anyway. We we just have so much potential. So just congratulations. And Clark, do you have anything to add on how that is, how that process runs? You want a microphone? You want to grab a microphone?
It's a group. Oh, do I need to do it? Oh, yeah, sure. So do I need to be, I don't need to be in here, do I? Okay, there we go. Better show that way. So anyway, just like Ty said, it's a group effort. It's based on man hours. So this happens to be first place in a Group B, which is 8,000 to 29,000 hours. And then you're also rated on whether or not you have any accidents, lost time accidents, even right down to sick leave, in which we've done really good this year on our sick leave. Between our guys, I think we had about 5 hours total. So last year we didn't do that well because we had some operations, but this year we've done really good, and that's kind of the way it goes. But it is also part of that accounting is your sick leave. So, and then it's lost time accidents, any of those kind of things, anything that requires you to lose time or go to the doctor, get some stitches, stuff like that. And it's based, of course, on your reporting of those. I mean, it's an honesty deal tied in with your safety meetings and the whole scenario. So it's a group effort. So, and the guys done really good. They've done really good. So.
So they probably, I'm guessing they probably take a look at a frequency rate of accidents and lost time accidents and that type of thing, correct? I would have guessed, I would imagine.
Yeah, they have an industry and coincidentally, we're doing quite well. We're pretty strong with the IPSA organization. We have a safety committee, and they, of course, administer this along with they're making sure we have our training manuals. They make sure we're doing our safety meetings. They make sure that we're sharing with one another as far as if we have accidents, near misses, things like that. It's become a lot more of the culture, and they've done a fine job.
May I say something? And you just said it, the word culture. Coming from an industry for 40 years that really placed a great deal of emphasis on safety, a ton of emphasis on safety. I look back when I started my career there and I think of some of the things we used to do. You see those commercials about, when they used to smoke it. That's what I always think, I can't believe we did that, till when I retired, and how much that culture had changed there at the cement plant over 40 years, and how much more emphasis there was put on safety. And so I've been around here a while as well, and I've seen that culture change here with Morgan City as well. And so realizing, coming from an industry that really focuses on that, I mean, congratulations. I mean, that's a huge thing. And safety is number one. You want people to go home to their families every night. So that's what it's all about. So appreciate that.
Yeah.
A great deal. So thank you.
Thank you. And it's citywide, really. Ty's done a great job with incentivizing, every year when we set our goals and everything. I mean, every department, especially roads,
has an awesome safety record. But we've done a good, folks are becoming more aware of it. And like you say, it's, take the time.
And a culture.
Perfect. Correct. So, yeah, appreciate that.
So if I may, just as a side note, the city has had, we've only had 2 worker comp claims in the last 5 years and none in the last 2 years. And a workers' comp claim is quite literally if you get injured on work and go get checked out at the hospital, that's a workers' comp claim. And so it really just helps everything, but I think our department's half of our people anyway, so good job.
Yeah, exactly.
Clark, any idea how many groups make up the association?
In the IPSA, there is about, right now, probably 60
Yeah, that's
60 members.
That's a nice acknowledgement then with a good sized
It
group.
is. It is. They do a good job. Thank you.
Yeah, well done.
Well done. Well spoken. Tony.
Absolutely.
Second what Tony said.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's a little appreciation.
Appreciate that. I'll share that with everybody.
Yeah, I'll take a picture.
Your screen's on again.
There you go.
You want a centerpiece too?
Couple of flower arrangements on the side.
Yeah.
Add that to the next building, that photo booth.
Not skinny enough.
Hey, while we're on the employees and Lance is sitting here, thank you to him for all the work and keeping the roads cleared during this winter and keeping everything going. And sometimes that's been a no small task. So thank you to all of our staff for, it isn't just him, but everybody for keeping us going.
What snow?
Big year.
Our answer.
There's not a better city staff anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to, yeah, just appreciate them.
You.
Smile,
Okay.
Lance. He's got- Yeah.
Let's move into the active agenda. We have a bid award for the Young Street Improvement East Phase 2. You leaving? Oh, we're gonna need your voice here in a minute. Resolution 23-04. Ty, do you want to lead us on this?
Yeah, so this is the project we talked about a couple times before it went out to bid. We've completed the bidding process. I'll let Lance kind of mention how the bid opening went. I would just remind the council that when we put it out to bid, we got the unit pricing and all that included. But we were still exploring the opportunity to maybe do some work all the way up to the 4-way stop so that when we're done, that entire street has the same age. So it's a little beyond the 1,500 feet that was in the bid, but we also wanted to make sure we knew what pricing we got. So just in the resolution, just recognize that I think it even mentions that I have the flexibility, right, that you're authorizing me the flexibility to negotiate that and get as much done with this award, where in the past, when we've done awards, it's been with a specific dollar amount. This one does not have a specific dollar amount, but just want to make you fully aware that by awarding this bid, we're also planning on getting as much done as we can with the pricing that we got, if if that works into our budget plan, so.
Talk about the process of an additive alternate. Why
Yeah.
isn't that just part of the bid?
So that was the add-on after the
process.
the original, right? So so if we got terrible pricing, then it would have been nope, we're only gonna go this far type of a situation. And maybe you want to mention,
that you're looking at, in a perfect world, we would have liked to have had Geneva Rock, who's doing the paving for the bridge, pave the whole projects. We had the asphalt price separate. But the asphalt for the bridge is probably gonna be significantly more where it's such a small project. So we're just gonna go with the contractor's price. It's just always nice, something like that. You hate to have that joint where one contractor paved this short distance and then we go the rest, but it didn't work out that way pricing this time. So it was just the option to use the contractor to pave it, who was doing the bridge, or this contractor, and that's what we'll go with, the post construction to do the paving. So
Have you worked with them in the past, Lance?
yes, they're actually my first choice for a paving contractor. Jeff Post does an excellent job. I've been really happy with them. They actually did the commercial street reconstruction my first year here, where we did the new sidewalk and curb and gutter. So quite a bit smaller scope of project, but they have paved for us a couple other times since then also.
Looks like that's about all they do is asphalt there. Correct.
They do some asphalt, they'll do the dirt work, they are subbing the concrete out and the little bit of pipe work, but they'll do the excavation work as well, so.
Related to the
Yeah,
road.
and we are really happy with the
yeah.
pricing, if you want to mention. that.
When we opened the bids, Matt with Jones's, his engineer's estimate was almost right dead center in the pack. We were everywhere from just over $1 million to whatever posts. I didn't bring that paper with me as our low bid. And Matt mentioned he was really happy with the pricing for us. He actually called it pre-COVID pricing. He says, this is the first I've seen pricing like this since before the COVID-19 stuff. So stuff's starting to come back around. And so, yeah, it's good pricing. And I've already spoke with Jeff Post. He called asking what the process was and when he'd know if it was his for sure or not. He was well aware of the bridge project we have going on and that we kind of got to make sure we're not in each other's way. And he's willing to, within reason, to adjust schedules and that to make sure we keep this project out of the way of that bridge. That's our kind of high priority, and he's well aware of that. We'll talk over his schedule, what he has is he's thinking, and in our bridge meeting tomorrow, but he's hopeful, depending on the weather and what the rain and the snow does. I think he would really like to get going on all the concrete and curb and gutter in April, which as of last week, I think the bridge may be kind of working itself out of a job for a month in April, waiting on girders. So that would work out really good if he could be in doing his stuff. And so hopefully it works out good and everything goes smooth.
Oh, okay, I apologize, Lance. I'm still not totally clear here. The $706,374 is a base bid. Okay, and then the additive alternative is the $160,000. That's what?
That's the asphalt work.
Okay.
Yeah, that was actually on the recommendation of Matt. He says, let's do the asphalt as a separate price, just depending on timeframes and how it works out. Because in a perfect world, it would be nice to have one contractor pave the whole thing, but for the pricing we got, this is going to be the better pricing for us. So we'll have Post do the paving instead of using the bridge
The bridge contractor.
contractor.
So we did Island Road in a
Okay.
similar fashion. I didn't know what you were looking for when you asked that question, so I apologize. I thought we were talking about the additional, but basically, when we did Island Road, we bid it out and looked at the pricing with the option to use the pricing the county already had. Because they already had they already had the unit price, and so that's who does the work versus the material, and that's what Lance is saying is this is still better pricing than if we would have just,
Went with the bridge contractor.
While they were just right there paving,
Yeah.
continue.
But you don't, well, okay.
like they still would have done all the curb gutter sidewalk, they would have done all the
Right.
removing of material, all of that. It's simply just the laying.
Just the lane of the
portion.
asphalt, yes.
You said you had an option of not accepting it. You've got to pave it, don't you?
Well, because we could have tapped into the pricing on the
The bridge
bridge
contractor.
pavement. And we could have said, just do all of the work, get it ready, but we'll go ahead and have the other people while they're out, just pave the whole thing in one stretch. But,
Because there wouldn't be any difference in mobilization because both contractors will be on site.
right, but
Yeah,
yeah, and this
Yeah.
pricing was still better than
okay,
What they could have offered.
okay. Thank you. That clear now.
Do we have any more discussion? I think I'm excited. Lance, you're excited?
Yeah, it's gonna be good. I was really happy to see this. Matt was gonna put together kind of an engineer's estimate to do the 2-inch, to do a leveling course and a 2-inch overlay, like Ty said, from where this project ends all the way to 200 East. With the high school and elementary curb projects, that's been widened and hacked up and cut up, and it's pretty rough. And Matt was actually hopeful that with the amount we came in under what we were expecting, to be able to pave that and still come in with what we were expecting this project to be. So we would still come in what we were expecting up front, but do all that additional work. So. Perfect.
It's with the new bridge and road. Where are you going to put snow? Okay, get ready, Gary. Coming your way.
Sometimes plowing snow in the city is all these little, I plowed for the county for a winter before I came here, and going down Morgan Valley Drive for 12 miles without having to stop or turn was nice. I'm
Where do you put that?
finding myself looking forward to, even with a couple of stops, that one long straight stretch of wide road. So
It's a piece of cake then, huh?
yes.
Cakewalk.
Do we need a question, Gary, on a motion like this? I never remember. Do we need to put a dollar figure in it, or is it best to just leave that dollar figure out?
The bid.
Okay, all right. All right,
Yeah, in the resolution, it has that flexibility, so it's better to not put the dollar. amount
okay.
there.
Okay,
Oh.
yeah, thank you.
Just like the concrete pricing is for the sidewalk is really good, and their contractor, I gotta look them up, and I'm gonna look at some references on them. If it's someone we want, I actually have a few areas I'd like to do some sidewalks. So if they're willing out of our sidewalk budget, we'll if they're willing to honor that pricing, we'll maybe have them do some little sidewalk projects elsewhere. So
Okay, Sure.
if they'll honor their pricing coming from a different budget than that, but we'll maybe have them do some extra work while they're here, because it's pretty good concrete numbers as well. So
well, Mayor.
Tony.
On that note, I am prepared to make a motion that we adopt or approve Resolution 23-04. The resolution authorizing an agreement with Post Asphalt and Construction for the construction of the Young Street Improvements East Phase 2 project, authorizing further negotiations and change orders necessary for the completion of the Young Street Improvements East Phase 2 project.
Mouthful. Is there any more discussion?
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay. Tony made a motion to adopt resolution 2304. Resolution authorizing an agreement with Post Asphalt and Construction for the construction of the Young Street Improvements East Phase 2 project, and authorizing further negotiations and change orders necessary for the completion of the project, and that was seconded by Jeffrey. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Denise, that was unanimous. That's almost sending chills to have the road and the bridge after a decade.
Long time.
Oh, won't that be glorious day?
That will.
I'm glad this bridge is going better than the Devil's Slide Bridge, by the way.
Yes. Thank you, Lance.
Thanks, you guys.
Nice segue into it, huh?
Okay, council members, is there any reports or any business you'd like to discuss?
No planning meeting. Nope.
Okay, and our city manager was gonna update us on the Young Street Bridge and the Young Street Road project. Is there anything else you want to add?
Just on the bridge, and then I have some other updates if I may.
Okay.
So the bridge is going well. They've been able to work around any of the excess flows as they let, water out of Echo. But they're gonna pull off the job for about a month. And just so you're aware, so if you start to say, hey, what happened? Everything stopped. It basically, they tried to get to a point where if they got in line for girders, that they'd be ready for them and prepped. And it would have accelerated the end date of the project. They'll end up getting most everything they can up to the point for girders, but we're in line and the girders are not till the end of April will we get them. So that's the concrete. There's 5 concrete rails basically, or floor joists for a bridge. That's the girders that have to be cast and formed, and we're just in line, and they have to be made to spec. So
They're all precast, right?
they're all made to spec, so they're and then they're just delivered.
That's the regular schedule, the end of April that they were expecting them.
Now, yeah, and so it's no delay to the project. There just won't be anybody on site for about a month now that everything else is gonna be pretty well complete in the next couple of weeks. The abutments will be done. They've already driven the pile and that sort of thing. But
They're doing a lot of forming over there the last couple of days. I assume they're gonna pour all that concrete before they pull off, I guess.
yeah. So that's in the next 2 weeks they'll be done with.
Yeah.
So most of April, they'll be
Be done until the flooding.
Yeah, but the abutments will already be in, so
What?
the abutments will already be in and everything, so we'll just get a real good idea if the engineers were accurate or not. Will it be high enough? So, and then we just talked about the other update that I had, because we did the bid opening for that. And also in your packet, Teresa had applied for 2 grants and we got awarded that grant. We just got that notice. It's the last page in your packet, for $140,000. This is through Wasatch Front Regional Council. There were 2 planning grants. We applied in 2 separate, but it got awarded. Looks like the projects were combined into one. So our portion of that's $15,000. And so of the $155,000 in planning, we're hoping to have the general plan done already. And we'll probably finish general plan on that and then do a project to do a more detailed park and downtown area plan. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Does that have to be used in a certain time?
2 years, I think. This is a new process for us, and so all we did was get the notice that the award's coming, but then process on, reporting requirements and all that are yet to come, but I believe it was a 2-year performance period. So really appreciate her. I know one of the applications was a fire drill, I'll call it. Trying to get everything done. I was in Idaho at the time and she was here. What? So, but it was kind of figuring out their application process and we got her done. So that's exciting. Also, so we have the second truck for sale, just so you're aware, it's been posted for a week. So council employees are eligible to purchase. It's the 1 ton diesel. It's a Silverado, $55,000, and so that's out there. Then we also Roe has been working with our civic review and got code enforcement online. So now you can fill out a code enforcement complaint or issue online, and we have an online process to track those. So that's pretty exciting. Our basement project started this week, so we'll call it the Denise's Records Room project. That's pretty awesome down there, but it'll secure our records and we'll get all new shelving, and it has a workspace in there so they can review documents without hauling them upstairs and then returning them. Just go down and, you know, look at what you need to, and then it'll just be a lot more efficient, a lot better all the way around. That project started this week. So. We are working on the intermittent power outages. So that has been one of just the weirdest things. Clark's not here anymore, but it is on our system. We've used fault indicators and narrowed it down to like 500 feet, but there's really no, we started with trees. We've gone through all the typical things, been to the substation, worked through all the settings. And then today Clark went to Bountiful and picked up an infrared camera that will pick up a heat signature on the line to show if there's just a weak area or if it's actually the actual line that needs to be replaced, because all the insulators have been replaced, and it is just a test of patience. So just so you know, we did transfer load, and so it is just as limited number of homes affected, but all of the commercial customers have been transferred to a different substation. You know, when we went through the first round, but it's hard, it's a difficult one because where it's intermittent, you're not working off of a lot of information, and normally something like that causes an outage, then you're just out, right? But the fact that it faults and then reestablishes power just has everyone just working as much as they could. And Clark even stayed back from UAMPS meetings today and tomorrow to help the guys just keep plugging away and working on that. So just know we're working on it. It's just one of those things that
You're trying to isolate it.
yeah, they've narrowed down with fault indicators that say, you know, when it happens, but you have to wait for a whole other cycle before it happens, before something triggers to figure out where you place those on the line, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not a
Is it just a bump for everybody? I mean,
on that.
for
Yep,
me, it's
it's,
just a bump.
yep, and it gets all the way back to the recloser, which is at the substation. But the recloser, you know, if it senses something or something arcs on the line, it just opens and closes real fast in order to clear it, or,
Yeah.
you know, let the animal fall to the ground if it needs to, or the tree branch to burn off, and then it just reestablishes power, and it keeps getting back to the substation, bumping and then resetting, but not tripping any fuses.
Yeah.
Not, you know, and they're getting the readings off the substation of, you know, the time of the cycling and all of that. So, just doing everything that they can, but they've limited the number of homes down to a really small number. So it's not just every half a town.
What's the
So
frequency?
every day.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And for me, it's in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Are you still getting them?
I
You
haven't,
you shouldn't be.
I haven't got him and I don't think I've had anything in the last few days.
Yeah, that's when what day did? I was actually doing Clark's performance review when we went to the substation and it was pretty awesome. They paralleled the subs and transferred everybody with not a problem. That's one of the advantages of having a full crew. We used to not be able to do that. We used to just have to take an outage, then go do the switching and then turn the power back on. And
Yeah, I've
So
been,
I'm still getting them on.
yeah, so you and then up on Mahogany Ridge.
And all it does is, the only clock it messes up is my microwave.
me too. That's it. The microwave, I mean, everything, it's so instantaneous.
Yeah, it's quick.
It doesn't even trip anything but my microwave clock too.
Yeah. So anyway, we're working on it,
But it hasn't been done that for a couple of days.
yeah, I think you're transferred off. I think you're on a different substation now.
I
Jeffrey, you should
haven't
be
had
off,
it for a while either.
right? But we still have, we have an employee that's still on that and then the mayor's on it. So we have our own immediate feedback, right? Like, at least their spouses. If they forget to close. It's a bump. Yeah, it's just it's an intermittent. Then, so this is something I was hoping that we'd have the water rate study done. It's still in process. There's just some complicating factors, some big ones that matter. And so we haven't finished the study, but like if we did that tank project or not, if it's needed or not, really goes into the calculation of what that rate should be. And I was really hoping to have that done, but we ought to really consider the overage rate. The overage rate was established to reduce during the drought. We didn't really study that. It was just, we needed to do whatever we did. And we did, we saved, in that 1 month, we saved 4.7 million gallons of water, but that's just something the council maybe could consider is that overage rate just coming into spring.
We just double it.
We doubled it, yep. And so, if we adjust, we can either wait for the rate study, because I think the base rate is gonna get adjusted one way or the other with a recommendation with overage. So you can wait till that study's done. I was just hoping to have it done, so we only had to change the rate one more time. But if we go into spring, you might just hear from people, this is, maybe there's no overages needed because we're so wet, but the premise that we adopted that overage rate was for drought.
Save water. Yeah.
Yep, for drought, and I believe we're outside of that.
You say drought, but wouldn't it also be conservation? I mean, wouldn't we still want it there for conservation?
Yeah, you could, but our spring flow is not gonna be the issue this year. So the capacity on our system was that our tanks were getting down to like like 6 feet of the bottom. We can wait and see how that plays out if you want, but we also have to look at, are people likely to be using culinary to water their yards? And that's more common in drought, and where I don't see any irrigation restrictions, coming this year. That's just something to put on your radar, maybe a early spring.
Who's doing the study, Ty?
Zions,
Zions is,
public finance,
is Susie,
Yep.
Susie involved in that?
Susie Becker, yep. Yeah, well, and Jones has been giving them all the facility plan information. That's that's what's out there still, so.
We also saved quite a lot of water, didn't we, when we went over there in that North Morgan area and helped some of those folks fix leaks and.
Oh, that whole, the last 2 years, we've fixed a lot of leaks and replaced a lot of meters that were bad. We've replaced 250 meters, and so we've done a ton. Good.
There's
Or a lot.
been just a little bit of discussion that there's not secondary water over there for those that aren't on the agreement.
Sure. Yeah, and so the rates are different for both sides of town, but if you're fine where they're at, I just thought I would just remind everybody, or the council, that when we put that in, it was for drought. And I'm just saying, I believe our system's stable enough now that not a concern, but we can either wait for the rate study and just do one adjustment, or, you know, you may consider just looking at it and whichever direction you want to go.
When do they,
Tend to wait for this.
when do they think they'll be done? Any idea when they think they might have the study done?
I think hopefully by May, yeah. Okay.
No, I
I'll
would.
follow back with them and just say, hey, we're pretty anxious to get this done. And so that's good feedback. I just wanted to make sure it's on the radar.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Move in Susie's ear.
then, my last update is just that, you've all heard, that the county's providing sand, but people need to provide their own sandbags at this point because there's no, the flooding risk is just homes and basements, not the river, not the runoff, you know, where it becomes a whole public event. And so that's nice of them to provide that. But it is kind of a, here's the sand, but buy your own bags and fill them yourself type of a deal. And then that information is on our website. But the city doesn't ever, or I shouldn't say we won't, but typically the sandbags that we have in the sand is for protecting our own facilities and our own neighborhoods. So we don't usually hand those out to the public. That's more of an emergency management function, which it belongs at the county. And when they do that, it's just countywide. So the city's included in that activity. So if you get any questions, I just want to make sure you're all square, like, you know, the city doesn't ever hand out, you know, sandbags to the public. And it's a little bit of a, I don't know what you're going to sandbag right now anyway, but if someone knows, or they have a history of, you know, where their house is located at the base of the hill, or
Then they should,
Home Depot.
then they should mitigate that
Fair-
if
fair-
they've got an
Yeah.
issue.
and a lot of people berm or have trenched, which is probably way more effective than a sandbag anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, my
Like
my brother went down about 50 of them at Home Depot, 60 cents a bag. So what's that, $30?
Yeah. Then, you know, it's like, I have
They
these
make 'em now.
temporary downspout pipes that I have to put on the
Oh,
backyard
you
just to
got
get the
50s on.
water out to the front of the house. But that's the stuff you do.
You mentioned though that it sounded like maybe you've received information that says we don't have to worry about emergency flooding. You know.
Oh,
county
no,
or citywide.
at this point, right? So the snow that's on the ground is even rain on snow, the low level snow, low and mid-level snow needs to melt off. You know, all spring, and it will do that. But what I'm saying is what we have on the ground isn't likely to cause you know, street flooding, for example. Most of the storm drain will take most all that. And so what happens is our storm drains are all into the ground until the groundwater level comes to where the storm drains don't work. Or some of them outlet to the river, East Canyon Creek, and when their levels get so high, the storm drains back up, right now, the levels in the rivers and all of the surrounding runoff, there's tons of capacity in the river where it's not competing with you know, river flow. So if we're talking about this situation and the river's already full, then it's a flooding concern. It's just isolated, kind of a home by home situation at this point.
I mean, all of that could change depending on how the snow melts though, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if we don't warm up,
Have some real cold periods and then all of a sudden it hits
yeah, but it's not a guarantee.
exceptionally warm.
Yeah, at this point, it's not a guarantee that we're gonna see
I
flooding.
talked to Eric's brother, and the weather service will give us about a 5 to 2 day. It's going over.
No,
The river?
Yeah. The creeks and.
After I talked to you on Saturday, I went up to the fairgrounds. I was just curious because I
Mhm.
heard they taken 4 or 5 loads of sand up there. There wasn't a whole lot of sand left up there Saturday afternoon.
Holy
Used.
smokes.
Yeah, it's getting used, so.
Yeah.
Hopefully a couple of trucks there when I went out. I didn't go get sand, but I was curious, so. Hopefully
There's
a couple
people
of
have,
trucks there, no Then, so there's a need, I suppose. Some people. feel
Well,
it's
I
for-
call them comfort bags.
There you go.
Yep.
Or if you're planning on getting a sandbox anyway, you might as well bag it
Yeah.
first and then
Go get it.
load it later. We don't know what's gonna happen, so.
Of our guys, are the rivers in good shape? All the trees are out of it through the
Yep.
city, and
Yeah,
do we have access to throw head gates at ditches to move some water away from houses, or can we as a city not touch
yeah, no,
a ditch head gate?
yeah, and that's the same with the whole river system. It's based on water right and irrigation. It's not based on flood control. And so when they let water out of East or Echo, for example, it's when they're guaranteed that they're gonna be able to fulfill those first water rights.
Mans.
You can't do it prematurely and then have it not. Right? You have estimates, but you don't know exactly what the temperature is gonna be and how much of that actually makes it to the reservoir. So they try and keep it full, make capacity, but because a lot of people are like, why aren't they letting all the water out right now if they know it's gonna fill? And if it was purely flood control, then you would do that, but it's not based on water right, because you're not authorized to let someone's
Let
water
their water go. Sure.
go and not honor that water right. So same with ditches. It's controlled all by ditches.
Right.
We can, we could work with them and just say, open them up.
It's interesting, when we went on that little Weaver Basin water tour, I see they got another one coming up, I guess, but it was interesting. I didn't realize it. I remember them saying that their first priority is Echo, to have it full because it has the oldest water rights on it. So that's the one they try to keep full.
Yep. That's why.
I didn't know that till I went on that
Yeah.
tour.
But if, and you try and monitor that, but if they do that and then people flood,
Yeah,
then
yeah,
they're
yeah,
a
it's-
little angry, but that's why it's because they're not built for flood control.
They really are. There's some really old water.
Yeah,
rights
that's
in
what he
Echo.
said. He said that's got the oldest water rights in it, is Echo.
For sure.
So that's all I have for updates, man. Thanks.
Has anybody got any more questions for Ty? Okay. Is there a motion and a second to go into a closed session?
Let's get the agenda. Denise's card here. It's on here, too, on our agenda. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we go into closed session for the discussion of character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual, and discussion of a pending reasonable litigation.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion by Eric and a second by Jeff to go into the closed session for the purpose of discussion of the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual, and discussion of pending or reasonably imminent litigation. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, vote was unanimous.